It was our second night in an isolated clearing. The exhaustion from the hike made me drift off to sleep quickly, but around 2 a.m., a very specific sound woke me up. Bzzz. It was the metallic sound of a tent zipper opening slowly. The problem was, I was alone in my single-person tent, and the sound was coming from the canvas wall right behind my head. I froze completely, lying on my back, staring at the dark ceiling. The zipper of the bottom vent, a tiny window almost level with the ground, was being opened millimeter by millimeter. Whoever was outside was trying to do it without me noticing. My breath hitched. The sound stopped. For a few seconds, the silence was absolute. Then I felt it, a light but firm pressure against the side of my sleeping bag. Someone had just slid their hand through the opening they had made. I could hear faint, uneven breathing less than a foot from my ear, separated only by a thin layer of nylon. In a mix of panic and adrenaline, I lunged to the other side of the tent, desperately scrambling for my flashlight and pocket knife. When I finally clicked the light on and aimed it at the back vent, the hand was already gone. All I saw was the canvas flap swaying gently and the pitch-black woods on the other side. But the worst part came the next morning. When I went outside to investigate, I didn't find boot prints around my tent. I found deep knee and handprints in the damp dirt. Whoever was out there had spent hours crawling around my campsite before deciding to open my tent. I was camping with my brother in a nature reserve. It was past midnight when I needed to step out of the tent to use the bathroom. I grabbed my headlamp, did my business, and as I was walking back, I decided to turn it off for a few seconds, just to admire the stars in the clearing. It was a terrible mistake. As soon as my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed that the silhouette of our tent, about 10 yards away, looked wrong. There was a tall, dark shape standing right next to it. I froze. At first I thought it was just a twisted tree trunk I hadn't noticed earlier. But then the shape moved. It took a slow step, making absolutely no sound on the dry leaves, and leaned over the side of our tent. By the weak moonlight, I could make out the silhouette of a thin man wearing a dark hooded jacket. He had his face pressed flat against the nylon of the tent, as if he were trying to listen to my brother breathing inside. He didn't have a flashlight, no backpack. He was just standing there in the total blackness, perfectly comfortable in the dark. Panic surged up my throat. If I turned on my flashlight, he would know exactly where I was. If I stayed quiet, he might try to get into the tent with my sleeping brother. I made the riskiest decision of my life. I clicked my headlamp straight into its brightest strobe mode and screamed at the top of my lungs, "Hey, get away from there!" The flashing beam of light illuminated his face for a split second. He had a completely blank, dead expression, showing no shock or fear at my scream. Instead of running away, he simply took 3 slow steps backward and, facing me, vanished silently into the thick brush, as if he were part of the darkness itself. We packed up that tent in 5 minutes in the dark and spent the rest of the night locked inside our car with the headlights on.